Mr. Nitin Thakkar, President of the Bombay Bar Association, Colonel Iyer, our esteemed speaker this evening, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the lecture on neuro-linguistic programming by Colonel Iyer. This is a term that is very alien to all of us, and I think is going to be an extremely enlightening lecture. Thank you all for sparing time on a Friday evening and for joining us for something that sounds amazing because it's so difficult to even pronounce. May I request our President, Mr. Thakkar, to say a few words.
Colonel Arun and all friends, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all for this lecture. Bombay Bar Association does not have lectures only subject relating to law, because besides law, it is very important to have lifestyle training, and Colonel Arun Iyer is an expert on the subject. He has been Indian Army Special Forces veteran and founder of Transform Minds. For the past 20 years, he has been a student and practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, and today he works as an NLP life coach, transactional analysis coach, de-addiction specialist, and author. His first book, The Mental Commando, explores how NLP can be a powerful tool for wellness and transformation. And his second book is already on its way. During his military career, Colonel Iyer served in some of the most challenging environments and was closely involved with the welfare of the troops under his command. That experience gave him a deep understanding of human resilience and the power of the mind. Today he helps people overcome stress, which we need, anxiety, depression, phobias, and addictions, especially nicotine addictions, while guiding them to unlock their fullest potential. We are fortunate that today he has agreed to come here and address us on this topic. So please give a very warm welcome to Colonel Arun Iyer with a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Thakkar. We'd like now to show you our appreciation, Colonel Iyer, with a book, The Legacy of Law. It's yes, Mr. Thakkar would do the history of our association. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Colonel Iyer.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think I require the mics. Do I?
No, but we would like it to be recorded.
Okay, ठीक है. Cordless mic आएगा. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to thank the President for giving me this opportunity to address this erudite audience. And a Friday evening, so I am sure you are all looking ahead at the weekend, and I am consuming into your personal time. But I'll assure you that the next 1.5 hours will be something fruitful, that we'll all go richer over here when we move out from here. So that will be my endeavor, and we'll be working towards that. So neuro-linguistic programming, thoda sa tongue twister tha, and it was like, it is something which sounds very complicated, but it is very simple. And I have been a student of this particular form of science, and it has helped me immensely in my military career while I was doing operations, URI type operations along with my troops. So it used to give me that much of more command and control, and it helped me channelize the energies of my troops towards mission orientation. As you know, the Indian Army, there is no room for error. There is no room for failure. So towards this, neuro-linguistic programming has always helped me, and I'm sure that it will help each and every one of us if we are able to imbibe a few lessons and create an awareness. Because once we are aware, then it is all just a tap, a search away, right? With ChatGPT being around. But we should know what to search. Otherwise, we'll just be searching in the dark and we'll not be able to find our target. So with that, we'll start off with the presentation and with the seminar proper. So I'm Colonel Arun Iyer, and I'm an Indian Army Special Forces veteran. After about 22 years of service, I hung up my uniform in March this year. And for the past 22 years, I have been actively involved in operations. And neuro-linguistic programming helped me harness the energies, the potential of my troops, and helping them out with stress, anxiety, depression, and such like issues, especially PTSD and stuff like that. Because although in the army there are mechanisms institutionally, however, there is something known as Form 10. Now, Form 10 is taken as a stigma. So, Form 10 is that if I have to refer somebody for an assessment, I have to fill a Form 10 as a commanding officer. However, and the psychiatrist might not give him anything at all. She might give him a kick and tell him to go back, that he is feeling an injury or feeling a problem. But he becomes stigmatized for the rest of his life, coming from that clan, that village, that particular community. So people often hide. People often keep things to themselves because they don't want to be stigmatized for the rest of their service life. And although there are mechanisms which are ingrained in the system, but sometimes there are lapses. It builds up. And when it builds up, it is likely to cause a problem. So that is how NLP has helped me. I have been helping out people on my own, and they have been reaching out to me, and I have been able to harness the potential of this and solve their problems. So I have recently written a book, so it's about 2 years old now, recently. So this is basically on how NLP can help you harness your potential, harness your inner energies, and be the best version of yourself. Right. Apart from this, I have done a few certifications as a certified NLP practitioner, and as ma'am already brought out, as a transactional analysis coach, so that I can help people understand their communication aspects and harness their potential. So I would just like you to absorb this and park it for the time being, and give me a feedback at the end of the session, and it will help me grow, it will help me improve, and probably get present better the next time that we meet, right? Okay. So I'll be covering the session in these particular parts. Firstly, we'll be introduced to NLP, how NLP is overall beneficial in our mental wellness, how it is overall beneficial in a lot of issues in our life. Thereafter, we'll be seeing what psychosomatic diseases are all about, especially with sedentary lifestyles and with our F3 mode being repeatedly switched on. And we'll also be having a look into what are the human states, what are productive states, and how are resourceful states harnessed, why are unresourceful states formed in the first place. And finally, we'll be touching upon addiction, time permitting. So we'll start off with the starting. So when you see this, what do you remember? All of you? Okay. What can you visualize? Right? You don't have to say it aloud. This August gathering. Yeah. And when you see this, I'm just giving an example, sir, of how we are programmed. Okay. Thumbs up. When you see this in an ad, Tufani Thanda and all that, there's the thunder. Okay. दाग अच्छे होते हैं, है ना? When we see this, we only think about one particular aspect, right? Okay. So even if I place 4 rings, you'll still presume it to be Olympics, right? Because we are trained, we are programmed to think in a particular manner. When we were all youngsters, when we were all kids, we used to have pet names like Papu and stuff. But I am sure Gen Alpha, Gen Z, they will not resort to these names because they have been programmed to think in a particular way. And that is what our IT cells, that is what the industry is out to perform, which is a classical example of neuro-linguistic programming, right? Okay. So now, neuro-linguistic programming, although it sounds very modern and very hip, however, it has got its origin right from our ancient times, right from our historical times. So when Hanumanji wanted to reach Lanka and he had to cross the Indian Ocean, he did not have access to his resources. He forgot that he had such power that he could jump and try and even eat up the sun, right? So it required a coach in form of Jamban to come in, intervene, tell him what are his capabilities, what are his strengths, what is his potential. And that is why we require a guru, that is why we require a guide, that is why we require a coach, a mentor, a friend, a teacher, somebody who can direct us and channelize our energies, right? So this NLP has been existent in our culture right from ancient Vedic times, from our ancient mythological times, right? Coming on to the next era, that was of our Prabhu Shri Krishna, when he saw that Arjun was filled with self-doubt. So we are all very prepared in life's lessons every day, but at some critical points we start harnessing that self-doubt, and we start harnessing that fear in ourselves, that whether we will be able to do something, whether we will be able to achieve something or not, right? So similarly, Arjun had prepared all his life to defeat the Kauravas. But at the final point, when he went onto the battlefield, he had his self-doubt. And that is when Shri Krishna, as a mentor, had to intervene and direct him, channelize his energies, right? So NLP is this process of guiding somebody to propel towards excellence is the process of neuro-linguistic programming. Okay. So NLP has also got its misuse, its negative cons. So I have seen this all my life, right from my earlier lieutenant days while in operations. I have interacted with a number of surrendered terrorists and stuff like that, and I have seen that how they are programmed, how they are brainwashed to do what they do, how that hatred is harnessed inside them. So that is a classical example of misuse of neuro-linguistic programming, and how can you damage the society by harnessing something good, right, in a negative way. So if we go on to NLP as a science, so there were two individuals, Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder. In the 1970s, they started a lot of research on the patterns of successful people. And they analyzed that all the successful people generally have one particular set pattern, like focus is one of those set patterns that a person who's focused will generally be successful. And a person who's not able to achieve the peak, you will find that he goes astray in his focus, in his concentration, in his attention, right? So similarly, they derived a lot of patterns, and they formulated this as a science that if these patterns are emulated, if these patterns can be repeated, it will enhance our probability of succeeding in our ventures, right? And that is how NLP as a science was born. Further, it has been streamlined, it has been researched a lot, and there have been many students and many contributors who have further harnessed the potential of NLP towards guiding us in excellence, right? Okay. So today it is being practiced by various successful personalities, by entrepreneurs, by sports persons. All the IPL teams have a coach to harness the potential of the players so that they are aloof. They are not affected by the trolls, by the social media posts and stuff like that, and they are in the right frame of mind, they are in the positive state. Okay. So it is a bridge to transition from our current state to our desired state, right? Okay. Now NLP has got 3 components. We are all aware, neuro, that is our mental patterns. Linguistic, that is the way we are communicating. We are communicating with ourselves, we are communicating with our brain. And the programming part, which is our preset beliefs, our existing ideas, thought patterns, our preset experiences, which define the way we interpret things. So NLP has got 3 components. We will be discussing that. So the first component is neuro. Now what do you understand? We all know that our human body has got 60 trillion cells approximately, and our brain has got 86 billion neurons. So it is when this 86 billion neurons, when they fire together, the idea is generated, the thought is produced, and this 86 billion neurons propel the 60 trillion cells into action. The action potential is produced, and when the 60 trillion cells take action, we are able to achieve our results. We are able to start off with the action. But there are a lot of times that you see that there are individuals who are very, very talented, who you feel are immensely qualified, who have a lot of knowledge, who plan a lot, who prepare a lot, but they are never able to put their ideas into action. They keep ideating, they keep thinking, they keep doing something like we used to see. There was an earlier channel, Mungeri Lal ke Haseen Sapne, right? So there are a lot of individuals who have immense potential, but because of their dreams are not being turned into action, there is no result. So why is this? We'll try to understand, right? Oh, sorry. Okay. So there is something known as neural resistance. So we all know, how many of us think that we should lose weight, for which we should be working out? Yes, we all know. We all think कि कल से नहीं करूँगा, कल से जिम जाऊँगा, सुबह उठूँगा, पीटी करूँगा, योगा करूँगा. But when we wake up in the morning, लगता है यार आज नहीं, आज सो जाता हूँ, आज नींद खींच लेता हूँ, कल से कर लूँगा. When there is a samosa and a jalebi in front of us, so that becomes our priority, because right now that is your instant gratification, right? So we've got sub-personalities within our psyche, and these sub-personalities control our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our actions, and that becomes our habits, and which decides our character. So suppose I tell you, and it has been decided that 5 o'clock I will be coming here for a lecture. So, and the lecture nobody turns up. I don't turn up. As a speaker, you are here. The next day again, I tell you, okay, today 5 o'clock we'll have a lecture. The next day again I don't turn up. The third day, when I turn up, I'll find only myself over here, right? Because you would have lost faith. So similarly, when we keep telling ourselves and we keep negating things to ourselves, we find that the results are also disastrous, right? So these sub-personalities impinge our progress. And what are these sub-personalities? We'll just try and observe. So there is a dreamer within all of us, right? A dreamer is somebody who visualizes progress, who visualizes a state, a desired state. So today we might be millionaires. The dreamer desires a billionaire, right? We might be a judge, and the dreamer desires to be a chief justice of the country, of the nation, right? Or of the high court. We might be an advocate. The dreamer desires that we become the president of the entire fraternity, like sir. So similarly, we all have our desired states, right? And the dreamer always visualizes. So this is in the form of visuals. This is in the form of video, right? That you have a positive state, a future state designated for yourself. So the dreamer propels you towards action. And it would have been so easy. The dreamer dreamt something and the doer did his action, right? That would have caused results which would have been positive. But does it happen that way? So why does it not happen? Because of the second type of subpersonality, which is the critique, which is sitting inside us, all of us. So the critique tells us to maintain status quo. He tells us not to take panga, not to move out of our comfort zone, not to explore, venture into things which is unfamiliar territory, right? The critique is not against you, but his sole agenda is one, to keep you safe, to keep you happy, to keep you content in the way you are. The critique will always tell you, and the critique always speaks to you in the form of audio. So you would hear this inner voices. Most of us, we keep talking to ourselves, and the inner voice always tells us something negative, right? कि अभी पैसा नहीं है, अभी टाइम नहीं है, अभी मौका नहीं है, अभी टैलेंट नहीं है, अभी सही हालात सही नहीं है, ये पंगे क्यों ले रहा है, जो है वो भी चला जाएगा, things like that, right? So the inner voice, the audio, is caused by the second subpersonality that we harness in our psyche, which is the critique, right? The critique has only one sole motto, to keep you safe. And we all know, while we are in the comfort zone, there will be no growth, right? Growth only occurs when we move out of the comfort zone. So the critique will also tell you that conditions are never perfect. So there is something known as perfection syndrome, right? Because things are not perfect, so action is not being undertaken. So the critique will always keep pointing out why you should not do something, right? And there is also one more thing that the critique does, right? This is a common syndrome, especially when we talk to our juniors or when we talk to our kids. The kid today's children, they are much more intelligent, qualified than us. If the child tells you, Papa, AI use kar lete hain, why are you doing it manually? You will try and tell the child, tu chup kar, main tera bapu. Mere ko pata hai, right? However, we suffer with this I know that syndrome. And this is the whole problem. Because a mind and a parachute, they work best when they are open, right? When they are in the bag, they don't work best when they are closed. However, we always tell others, like for example, a number of people would have also already thought, कि आज क्या सिखाने वाला है, ऐसा क्या ही बता देगा, right? I know that. So how do you know that you know that? So just because all of us see cricket. How many of us follow cricket? Very few who would not follow. Most of us would follow, right? And everyone is an armchair strategist. So, sitting in your hall, sitting on the sofa set, we will tell what Shubman Gill should be doing, or what Surya Kumar Yadav should be doing, or what Kohli should be doing, right? We will be telling him, I know that, right? Or for that matter, like we see a lot of experts sitting in their studios, they will be telling what Op Sindur should have been, how it should have been carried out, and so on and so forth, right? So we suffer from the syndrome of I know that. And when we have this kind of a mentality, we stop learning, we stop understanding, we stop gaining things, right? So the best way to ask yourself is to ask yourself, do I really know it? How will you know that you really know? If you are practicing it consistently. So we have all played cricket, right? I'm talking about the most common phenomena. So we all played gully cricket and stuff like that in our society, in our complex, in our college, in our school. But are we practicing it consistently? Are we practicing it even today? If we are practicing it with the same zeal, probably we know it. So if Sachin Tendulkar tells us, I know that, when we talk to him about cricket, it is logical because he's practiced it, right? So we have to ask ourselves, do I practice it consistently? Is it in my routine daily practice? When we have that I know that syndrome knocking at us, when your child tells you that dad, we should stop doing something and we should do this, before checking him or before rejecting his, throwing his idea out of the window into the dustbin. So just think whether you know that. If you don't know, then it will be helpful for all of us to sit as new students and try and learn and harness the potential of whatever is being taught, right? Okay. Now, apart from this critique is the third subpersonality, that is the doer. So the doer is the one who propels us to take action. So the critique and the doer, they will never be operating together. Only one of them will be operating at a time. So the dreamer dreams. The critique, if he wins the match, we are at status quo. We have not gained anything. We are just like we were. If the dreamer has dreamt and the critique has been silenced, then the doer takes action and we are on the path of transformation, right? So one has to remember how our psyche works, how our mind works towards pushing us into action, right? So this was the first part. Now coming on to the second part, that is linguistic. Now, what does linguistic mean? It means language and communication. And with all the erudite lawyers sitting over here, I don't have to tell you how important is language and communication, right? Probably you can take a better class than me. I'll just be giving a few tips. Now, communication has got three different strata. So the first type of communication is communication with the world. That is communication that we are engaging in, two or more people engage in, right? That is a physical communication. Now, that is communication with the world. Second is communication with ourselves. So as a 4-year-old child, you start talking to yourself. And till the time you die, you only talk to yourself. You don't talk to your wife, your husband, your friends, your siblings, your relatives, your parents, as much as you talk to yourself, isn't it? And most of the time, this talk is always negatively biased. We'll cover that. So, how communication with yourself is very important. And the final strata is communication with the universe. What does it even mean? We'll try and understand that, right? So, first thing is communication with the world. So, in a physical communication, body language assumes primacy, right? So, if you see generally, whenever you have to create an influence, you have to have that correct body language while talking, right? If you stoop, if you have a different posture, it is so unnerving. It is throwing off the conversation, right? It impacts the conversation. So, body language contributes 55% of your component in your communication, effective communication. Now, second is your voice and tone. So, voice modulation. How many of us have seen those ads? पहले मैं बहुत काला था, मैं गोरा हो गया, मैंने वो cream खरीदा. Yeah, we all heard those ads. How many of us have actually purchased those products? We never, no? Because it is flat voice and we know it is artificial. It doesn't resonate with us, right? So, voice modulation has got 38% of the component in effective communication. And last 7% is the words used. So, you don't require to be a Shashi Tharoor to communicate your point. Probably only a Shakespeare can understand, right? So, if you are communicating in simple words, in clear, concise manner, you will be able to effectively communicate, right? Now, this is in a physical situation, physical scenario where two individuals are interacting. Somebody might say, I am a radio jockey or I am a telemarketer. I sit behind a telephone and do my business. So, in that case, the voice modulation and the words, that becomes next important aspect, right? And your body language declines to the third position. Now, somebody might say that I am an author or I am a news writer, I only print news articles. So, in that case, the words gain primacy and the others are lower down in contribution, right? So, that requires the human intellect, that requires intelligence to apply at what point of time, what should be more important, what contributes more towards effective communication, right? So, this is about communication. However, I will give you 5 simple rules for effective communication, right? Whenever we talk to somebody, we generally slouch, isn't it? We generally get into comfortable mode. So, if you have to effectively communicate, keep your spine erect, right? When you keep your spine erect, when you sit with your spine erect, like in the defense forces, when you say chest up, chin up, it gives you a sense of certainty. There is an energy flow, right? Even when children study, when their spine is erect, the energy flows. How many of us practice yoga? Okay. So, in yoga also they say, keep your spine erect. That is because there is a sense of energy flow. There is a sense of certainty. You have a grasp about your subject, right? Generally we stoop. Like in the army, we say chest up, chin up. We used to say chest up, chin up. What does that mean? It means you're keeping your spine erect, right? Now, second is keeping your forehead relaxed. You would always see that whenever there's an argument, whenever you're irritated, angry, whenever you're anxious, right, your forehead will be the first one to be crunched. So, you'll always have your forehead like that, right, whenever you're angry. So, if you let your forehead loose, you will not be able to retain your anger. Whenever you are having an argument with your wife, so this is that Guru Gyan. This is that golden super tip, right? Pro tip. So if you let your forehead loose, you will not be able to retain anger, and the tempers will come down immediately. So it is like a cyclic loop. You crunch your forehead, it fuels your anger. As your anger gets fueled, the third step of communication is your face muscles get tightened. So you start grinding your jaw, you excite yourself more, right? And as you start grinding your jaw, it excites you more, and it further pulls you into that anger loop. It fuels your anger more. So the third step is keeping your jaw relaxed, keeping your face muscles relaxed, right? If your forehead is relaxed, if your face muscles are relaxed, you will not be able to retain anger, and you will be able to communicate your point much better. You will be able to put across your point much better, right, when you are in your senses. Okay, fourth pro tip is eye contact. Now eye contact is like anesthesia. ज़्यादा दिया तो ओवर रिएक्शन एंड बंदा खत्म, कम दिया तो दर्द होता रहेगा, right? So eye contact is like anesthesia. So you have to have the right amount of eye contact. Now what is the right amount of eye contact? That is a big $1,000 million question. Because especially when you are interacting with the opposite sex, so when a boy is interacting with a girl, if I stare too much, if I look too much into your eye, you will say, okay, I am staring at you, giving you meaningful looks. If I don't stare, then you will say, okay, he is not interested, probably he doesn't know his subject, right? So that is, it is deciphered in that manner. So the right amount of eye contact is that I should be able to see the color of your pupils. If I have noticed what is the color of your pupils, is it black, brown, gray, blue, green, whatever is it? So the right channel has been established, right? Eye contact is the fourth point. That is the right amount of eye contact. You don't have to keep staring at somebody. You can just see the color of his eyes. If you have noted the color of the pupils, right amount of eye contact has been established. And last, fifth and most important, we'll just do a small exercise for this, okay? So everyone sit, aram se. Okay. Now everyone take your right chin to the right. Just turn it right, yeah. Now keep your left chin to the left. Simultaneously. Yeah, and start passing air. You'll start smiling, right? So the fifth most important point is smile, right? Whenever you're communicating, have a gentle smile on your face. It makes a difference. It changes the way you communicate, right? So 5 steps. First step, keeping your spine erect. Second step, keeping your forehead relaxed. Third step, keeping your face muscles relaxed. Fourth step, having the right kind of eye contact. And fifth step is having a smile. If you are able to follow these 5 steps, you will be able to have a meaningful conversation. You will be able to influence the other person better. So I had this practice myself. So I had one of these bosses who was very, very short-tempered, and he would not listen to you. So he was always in that I know that syndrome. Before you say something, he already knows what is in your mind. So he would always bulldoze his way through. And I realized over a period of time that I was also covering down, right? I was also going into that irritated mode, and we are only heading into a conflict. So when I started implementing this, sitting on the chair with my spine erect and stuff like that, I realized that the communication had totally changed. Probably his reticular activation system, there is a reticular activation system within our brain, which perceives what is important. Like for the past half an hour, you have been sitting on the chair, right? But you have not been feeling the handle or the wire underneath your hips, right? Because you have not been paying attention to that. Your reticular activation system has been accepting it, your senses have been accepting it, but your reticular activation system has not let it pass through. Now that I tell you, okay, now you would feel ki lakdi sahi hai ya nahi hai, right? So now his reticular system, probably it started getting activated, and thereafter he understood that this guy means business. And thereafter the communication, the quality of communication, that definitely changed. So to have effective communication, it is very essential that you start practicing these steps, 5 simple steps, and it changes the meaning of your communication, right? And in NLP, there is something known as, there is one of the presuppositions. NLP has a number of presuppositions. So the meaning of communication is the response I get. It's a very, very deep rooted, it's a very deep phenomena. The meaning of communication is the response you get, right? So if your child is giving you a blank look, probably you have not been able to make him understand. Or if your wife is not able to understand, probably you have not been able to communicate your point. You require to change your modality. Or if your husband is not accepting your point, probably you have not been able to reach out, right? So the meaning of communication is the response you get. Okay. So this is in a real world scenario. With me so far, am I making some sense? Is a Friday being spent gainfully? कि आगे फंस गए और अभी जा नहीं सकते चक्रव्यूह से, right? So we'll head to the next thing. Now, as I told you, when a child is 4 years, he starts talking to himself, right? Till the time he is 9 years, his cognition is generally developed, and he keeps talking to himself for the rest of his life. And most of the times, you will find that there are no books on how to talk to yourself. You will find that how to create friends, how to influence others, how to win friends. You will find books on all these subjects, but you will hardly find books on how to talk to yourself. So it is the most important aspect, but it is the most neglected. So imagine that I am your neighbor, okay? I ring the bell every morning, and when you come out, I tell you, you are not good enough. You are useless, you are worthless, right? In the evening, again, I come back, I ring the bell, you come out, and again I tell you the same thing. You are worthless, you are not qualified enough, you are not good enough. So this happens on a daily basis, over a period of time, months together, right? What will you do? You'll think of ways to sort me out. कि इसको कैसे धुलाई करें, इसकी पिटाई कैसे करें, right? Now imagine you yourself are telling you this. Yes? Your internal conversation is negatively biased most of the times. So you keep telling yourself, you cannot do it. ये अपने बस की नहीं है, right? If this is your narrative to yourself, what will be the output? What will be the effect? It is bound to be negative, right? So we have to improve the quality of communication with ourselves. And how to do it? NLP has got various techniques. We'll, at the end of this thing, at the end of the seminar, time permitting, I'll take you through one technique known as thumb technique, which helps you transform your inner negative voices, right? And the last aspect is communication with the universe. Now, what does it mean? If I tell you, go on the top of your terrace and start shouting, is it communication with the universe? Can anybody tell me? So, we all know that everything in this universe has got energy. You, me, the table, chair, the presenter, the camera, the TV, everything has got energy. And where there is energy, there is vibration. Because of vibration, energy is caused. And where there is vibration, there is always a frequency. So we are basically communicating with the frequencies. Like currently in this room, there are so many frequencies which are moving around from our mobile phones, right? From the TV sets or from in the environment. It is just that our receptors are not tuned to catch those frequencies. We require a mobile phone or we require something else as a receiver for those frequencies. So similarly, we are communicating with the world, with the universe, with our frequencies. So you would have seen when you are angry, when you are irritated, when you are in a fight with somebody, वो आग बबूले हो जाते हैं ना, लाल हो जाते हैं, especially people who are very fair, like ma'am and all of you, right? Not people like me. उनके लिए तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, ऐसे लाल होते रहते हैं. So people who are fair, they will see that they are getting red and they are getting hot, right? Your temperature gets hot inside. So basically you are resonating with those kind of frequencies, right? And you are transmitting those frequencies to the external world. So you will see that people who are short-tempered, who are agitated, irritated, easily excitable, they are always found at the wrong places. तो दो लोग सिग्नल पे लड़ रहे हैं, बट दिस फैंटम विल ऑलवेज बी देयर एज अ थर्ड पार्टी, जिसका कोई लेना देना नहीं है। ट्रेन में दो लोग आपस में लड़ रहे हैं प्लेटफॉर्म पे, ये पहुंच जाएगा तीसरा हाथ पैर मारने के लिए, है ना। सो ही विल ऑलवेज बी फाउंड एट द रॉन्ग प्लेसेस बिकॉज ही इज ट्रांसमिटिंग दैट फ्रीक्वेंसी, right? And similarly, you will find kind people who will always be found wherever there is somebody who requires their help, right? So, we are transmitting those frequencies to the universe. Now, there was a scientist known as David Hawkins. He conducted this experiment on cone of consciousness. So, what he deciphered was when we are in agitated, unresourceful states, when we are angry, when we are in grief, when we are in apathy, when we are jealous, when we are agitated, when we are anxious, we work in the lower frequencies, right? And as we move towards higher frequencies, our mind, our body becomes more calmer. So when we are calm, composed, serene, our frequencies change towards the higher end of the spectrum, right? So enlightenment is the ultimate that everyone seeks, right? So this process of shifting from lower frequencies to higher frequencies is what NLP helps you, because it helps you harness your potential and be in control of yourself, right? So rather than acting only by pure instinct and being limbic brain driven, you will be more prefrontal cortex driven, right? Which is the logical part of your brain, right? So when you are grateful, when you transmit, generally we only complain. We only see what is lacking, right? We don't appreciate what is good. So a person who probably has an Alto, he would only see कि बड़ी गाड़ी क्यों नहीं है मेरे पास, no? We only compare ourselves with the echelon upwards. No harm. It is good because you have to compare to progress. But at the same time, you have to be thankful for what you have, right? A lot of people you see in today's age in the society, they have iPhones, right? 80% of iPhones in India are on EMIs. People, whether they require it or they don't require it, whether they have the capacity to have it or not, but it becomes a social validation measure, because that ring, when it rings, it shows that I am worthy. So people are into a different zone altogether, right? So when complaint is the action, scarcity will be the reaction, right? We all know Newton's third law of motion. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So when complaint is the action, scarcity will be the reaction. And when gratitude is the action, abundance will be the reaction. Because you start identifying things which you hitherto did not recognize, you did not pay your attention to, right? And you start identifying, you start being thankful for things which you took for granted. So till the time our health is okay, there is no problem, right? When we have an issue, when our liver stops functioning the way it is supposed to, when our kidney stops functioning, that is the time we start paying attention towards it, right? So once it is damaged, only then do we realize the importance. जब तक ठीक चल रहा है तब तक किसी को कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा. We take it for granted. So what is the way to do this? There is something known as gratitude journaling. So what is gratitude journaling? I am sure a lot of us would be aware about it. So every night before we go off to sleep, if we can identify 5 things and we can jot it down, right? We can start being thankful for it, 5 distinct things every day. You be thankful for it and you continue this practice for 66 days. So there is a theory of automaticity which says that if something is practiced for 66 days, पहले वो 21 days होता था, कभी वो 48, 42 हो गया. So now latest figure is 66, right? So if you practice something continuously for 66 days, it becomes second nature to you. It becomes automatic. Thereafter, you start being thankful on a regular basis, right? Right from the taxi driver who would probably have dropped you, right from that lift man who would have pressed your lift button, we start being thankful automatically. And we start identifying more opportunities, we start being more conscious, right? Aware about things around us. So on Play Store also there are a number of apps for gratitude journaling which help you keep track of what things you are tracking and what things you should be doing, right? Making sense so far? Okay. So this was about linguistic part. Now coming on to the final part, that is programming. So if the code is wrong, if the input is wrong, will the output be correct? So we all know that. So घर पे हम लोग ने सब लोग ने we have purchased a TV, we purchased a washing machine or an AC, right? Or a refrigerator. So whenever we purchase, we get a manual, है ना? That manual is accompanied. So problem क्या है कि भगवान ने इस धरती पे हमें भेजा, हमारे साथ एक भेजा भी भेजा, लेकिन वो भेजे को चलाने वाला मैनुअल नहीं भेजा, right? So NLP helps us that manual to run this wonderful machine, the most complex machine that we got installed inside. ठीक है? So NLP is like that manual. So it is wellness without medication, and it helps you harness your own potential towards being a better version of yourself. With me so far? So we just finished the first part, right? And we are on track. So coming on to the second part. Now this is all about psychosomatic diseases. You would have all seen that nowadays psychosomatic diseases are diseases which are produced in your mind and manifested in your body, right? It is like allergy, right? Allergy, autoimmune diseases, alopecia, psoriasis. Most of these diseases are produced in your mind and they are seen reflected in your physique, in your physical system, right? How does this happen? We'll just have a look at that. Okay. So the human body, the human brain, that was designed for ancient times, prehistoric times, right? So imagine our forefathers' times when there was a danger. So when there was a tiger which was seen, there is immediately a danger signal. So your brain gets activated. Your amygdala is a small gland which starts whistling, which is like the watchman. It tells you that there is a danger which is lurking around, and it activates the hypothalamus, right? Now when the hypothalamus is activated, the hypothalamus releases adrenaline, cortisol, neoadrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, all these things, right? To get your body into action. Now things have changed. Now there is no danger of a lion or a tiger as we move around, right? But this system still exists. So while you are sitting in the court and thinking about, in your chamber, thinking about something, and at that point of time, you see that the stock market has suddenly crashed and all your savings are inside, okay? You were planning for something else. So your F3 mode is immediately activated, right? We keep activating our F3 mode. So it is, what is F3 mode? It is flight, fright, or freeze. So either we flight, if we cannot fight with the enemy is too strong, we would prefer to run away. If the enemy is of the same stature, we would probably think of having a duel, a bout, a contest, and fight it out. And if we cannot even fight, if we cannot even run away, then we would obviously try to freeze and hide somewhere. So भूत का एहसास होता है तभी कभी हम लोग छुप के रखते हैं, चादर ओढ़ लेते हैं कि भूत नहीं आएगा. So our brain regularly activates, and this fight or freeze mode is activated. F3 mode is activated, right? Which causes psychosomatic diseases in the body. Now, how does this happen? How does this manifest physically? So whenever there is a threat which occurs, you will see that there is an external threat, right? So now your body wants blood in its limbs to either fight or to run away. So for that, the blood flow, that is cut off from your gut, because right now your body says कि खाना बाद में पचाएंगे, पहले लड़ लेते हैं या भाग लेते हैं, right? So your gut blood supply is cut off. Now second thing what happens is that your prefrontal cortex, that consumes a lot of blood. So your body says that your reptilian brain or your limbic brain, that should come into action because that controls your instincts, that controls your emotions rather than your logic. Abhi logic nahi chahiye, logic baad mein karenge. So your blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, that gets cut off, right? Now, most of the times you will see, how many of you are afraid of cockroaches? Nobody? Cockroach, right. Lizard? Okay, good. So you will always see कि वो cockroach के पास आप ऐसे चिल्ला रहे हो, but that cockroach is more afraid than you because it is seeing a human being which is thousands of times bigger in size, right? So अगले बार आप सोचते भी हो कि why did I react like this, right? But next time when the cockroach comes, you will again end up reacting in the same manner. So your prefrontal cortex में खून आना बंद हो गया था, right? So from बुद्धिमान we became बुद्धूमान. So बुद्धि और बुद्धू में ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं है ना? बुद्धि, बुद्धू, बुद्धा, they are all minor variations, right? So your prefrontal cortex gets bereft of blood flow, and because of which your blood is not being, right now your brain is not operating from the logical point of view, it is operating from the emotional point of view, from your reptilian instincts, which is your survival instinct. So whenever you are in a fight also, you will think, people will tell you, अरे रुक जा यार, मत लड़ाई करने जाना, but वो बोले नहीं नहीं मैं जा रहा हूँ, and emotionally charged up, right? When he gets thrashed by others, तब होश ठिकाने आते हैं. हिंदी पिक्चर के हीरो तो है नहीं, right? So this is the second step. The third step is when your immune system का जो blood supply है, that is cut off, right? Because the body says that the internal enemy, the internal bacteria and viruses can be dealt with later. Right now, let me deal with the external enemy. So the blood supply is more required for the battling the external enemy. And finally is your liver. So your liver has some amount of sugar stored as carbohydrates, right? So that is released in your blood to give you more energy, instantaneous energy. So liver ने तो छोड़ दिया. अब if there was a tiger or a lion and you are physically fighting it out or physically running away, that carbohydrate would be expended. But अभी वो carbohydrate expend नहीं हो रहा because share market गिर गया and you cannot do anything about it, but you are still worried. Your F3 mode is on, right? So that sugar is present in your body and which complicates into diabetes type 1, type 2, right? Things of those kind. So over a period of time, it is like कि motor को तेज चला रहे हो, which is your heart, which is pumping more and more because it requires more blood with greater force, right? Or your veins, your arteries, they are getting thinner and thinner, right? So that blood is flowing more with greater pressure. तो या तो मोटर को तेज चलाओगे या तो पाइप को पतला करते जाओगे. अगर ये डेली करते रहोगे किसी दिन मोटर जलेगा या तो पाइप फटेगा, है ना? So this is what happens in psychosomatic diseases, that your F3 mode, when it is routinely activated, you start, your immune system is in a doldrum, it is in a havoc state. ठीक है? So when it is confused, it becomes alopecia, psoriasis, autoimmune diseases, कि अपना कौन है दुश्मन कौन है वही पता नहीं चल रहा, right? When it is in a surrender state, it gives up. So small bacteria infection can also cause a problem. And when it is overactive, so it is like allergies, जहाँ पे it becomes a big problem. So it is like you are killing a mosquito with an AK-47 rifle, right? That is an allergy, typical reaction of your body. So this is how psychosomatic diseases are manifested in the body. Now what can be done? What can be done is this F3 mode, which drains our battery, which is like that background app on our mobile. If we are able to understand what is the F3 mode all about, if we are able to channelize it, if we are able to keep our F3 mode intact, right, then our body will not always be in reactive mode. And we will be able to harness our good health, we will be able to be in our resourceful states, right? With me so far? Okay. So now coming on to the third state, third part, that is about pre-installed psychological needs, right? So human beings, हम लोग बोलते हैं ना कि हम लोग किसी के लिए कुछ कर रहे हैं, किसी ने हमारे लिए कुछ किया है. We have those kind of misconceptions, right? But the basic point is, why a human being acts is not to do something for somebody, but to fulfill his own pre-installed psychological needs, right? So we all are born with 6 pre-installed psychological needs within our system. Now Maslow's law of hierarchy में Maslow's pre-installed needs थे. Similarly, there are in NLP there are 6 pre-installed psychological needs which has been identified as hardwired into your system. So बचपन से ही हैं, पैदाइश से, right? This is something known as in Gita, if you read, these are known as vasanas, that you carry your previous karams and stuff like that. You carry your thoughts, emotions and stuff which builds. So these are the pre-installed psychological needs that we carry from our birth, which is further honed, harnessed by our experiences, by our beliefs, by the environment, right? So these are very difficult to change. Unless and until there is a life-threatening or a life-changing situation, these don't generally change, right? So what are these? So there are these six needs. First is certainty. Now this certainty-oriented individual, he wants security. He wants stability. He doesn't want altu-faltu ka excitement, right? He wants that he should go in the morning and sit in his office from 9 till 5 in the evening, take his dabba, come back home and live his life peacefully. So there was a survey which was conducted by Gallups. Gallups is a US organization which is into research. So when it surveyed, it found that 85% of people are not satisfied with their job. They are not happy with their job, with their careers, right? But they are kar rahe hain. So when it was further researched, it was found out that they are doing it with all heart, with all lagan, because on 31st of the month, they get their paycheck, right? And that paycheck looks at their EMIs and their outstanding from 1st to 7th, 1st to 10th, and thereafter it is waiting for the next 31st, and in the same cycle. So this certainty-oriented individual is more security-bound. He doesn't want any risks. If you give him 1 crore rupees, he will put it in FD rather than investing it in a part of it in equity. He will think that this money should not, at least the principal should not go waste, right? He would not want to experiment and have a lot of kick in his life, right? Now the second type of person is the uncertainty, variety-oriented types. This guy will always be out for fun. अगर पैसे भी कम हैं तो भी उसको जाना है एडवेंचर पे. He wants to see the world. He wants to do new things. He wants to experiment. He wants to have new experiences under his belt, right? He is uncertainty, variety oriented. The third person is the significance oriented type. So this is like that chacha ji in that shadi, who will always create ruckus that he has not been given food first, right? Who will always throw a tantrum that he has not been taken care of. So significance oriented, like our children. So a lot of kids, they exactly know how to blackmail their parents without even one drop of tear rolling down their eyes, right? But they know what is your weak point. So they are significance oriented, right? The fourth type is the love and connection type. So this is like that ideal housewife who will give up everything, who will bend backwards, who wants everyone to be together, even at the cost of her own self-respect, even at the cost of her own comfort, right? Because everyone should be together. The fifth type will be the contribution type. So this guy would want to go give something to others, to help others, to create a change, to cause a change in the society, to create some difference, right? Anazare kind of people. And the final sixth type is growth oriented. So now growth can be personal growth, professional growth, right? Spiritual growth. It can be in all spheres. So you might like to learn a new skill, a new art form, or you might like to increase your wealth, that is also growth. Or you might like to learn something to increase your professional acumen, your professional competencies, right? So this is a growth oriented type. Now, how does this work? Why does it matter? Because if the wife is love and connection oriented, for example, and the husband is growth oriented, right? So the wife would only want that कि जाते टाइम पे I love you बोल के जाओ, शाम को आओगे तो एक hug कर दो, है ना? The husband will not have time for this. He would be more busy in running around. कि I am earning for all of you, for your better future, right? So there is a mismatch, and because of this lack of understanding, this develops into lack of compatibility over a period of time. So in the Indian society, when we do this 36 gun milana, 36 gun mile na mile, but if the PIPs are matched, if you are able to understand ki what is the PIP of your better half or your partner in your company or your subordinate in your team, what are his PIPs and how can you fulfill his PIP, right? What actions can you take to fulfill his PIP? Minor micro actions, doesn't require that every day you should sing a song, right, to express your love. A small action would also mean 1,000 words, right? So it helps in a lot of compatibility, in a lot of harmony, and that results in a lot of progress in a short time, right? With me so far? Okay. So the next type is you have to understand what are your PIPs. So for this, I'll share with ma'am. I'll request ma'am if you can circulate amongst them. There is a questionnaire which is an 84 question questionnaire. So I will also circulate a video. Recently, I had conducted a similar lecture at National Judicial Academy. So for the judges also, I had circulated, and so that they can have an introspection and understanding of their own PIPs. So I'll circulate that video along with the questionnaire. You can take out time, probably Saturday, Sunday में थोड़ा अगर time निकाल दिया, आधा घंटा, it will be worth the effort when you are chilling out, okay? And I will strongly recommend, please do it with your better halves, right? So you are able to understand what is your better half's PIP, what is your PIP. The top two PIPs guide your way of functioning, guide your attitude towards life, okay? And any relationship, it prospers when you do something for your other half, right? When अगर थोड़ा सा हम लोग कर देते हैं दूसरों के लिए, तो the relationship grows by leaps and bounds, right? So tomorrow being Saturday and day after tomorrow being Sunday, I'll share the questionnaire and the video. Please take out time. It will be worth the effort, right? Okay. So next is our personality styles. So we have various learning styles. So some people are visually oriented learners, right? Some people are audio oriented learners. Some people are feeling oriented learners. And some people are very analytical in their learning style. Whenever there is some problem presented to them, they would start analyzing it critically and looking at it critically. So how does this help? This helps especially with children, especially with our forthcoming generation. If they are able to know what is their learning style, and if they are able to channelize their energies in that particular learning style, or if they are taking up a career path suited to their learning style, there is greater chance of them being successful. ऐसा नहीं है कि they will not have a turmoil, they will not face failures. But अगर like how many of you have read Sunny Days by Sunil Gavaskar? Okay, so Sunny Days में the opening first chapter, the opening first page, Sunil Gavaskar says that on the first day of my birth, my uncle came and I had a small hole in my ear. So only his uncle noticed. So second day when his uncle came, the child who was lying next to his mother, he did not have a hole. So he created a ruckus, and there was a search operation which was launched in the hospital, and Sunil Gavaskar was found lying next to a fisherwoman, right? So the babies had been exchanged while taking a bath. So Sunil Gavaskar says, thanks to my uncle, otherwise I would have been fishing rather than playing cricket, right? So if we are able to learn, identify our learning styles, what we are good at, how we process data, we'll be able to harness our skills much better, right? Okay. Okay. So towards this, ये VAK analysis जो है नीचे, I'll share this questionnaire. This is a 7-question questionnaire. Every question has got 4 answers. You have to rate it 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And thereafter you have to do the totaling. So I'll share this questionnaire and the video also. So please go through it, it will help you, right? And I'll be more than happy if you can reach out to me and tell me, ki, okay, this is my query. So I know ki people are attempting. Although it is my personal experience that when it is given post session, so only 1% of people actually attempt it, because we are very busy in our lives, right? We don't have time for spare things, for faltu cheezein. But this is not faltu, it will be good introspection. Okay. Now we will come to the most important part of states. Everyone wants to be in a state of resourcefulness, right? ऐसा कोई भी नहीं है जो गुस्से में रहना चाहता है हमेशा, जो अपसेट रहना चाहता है, who doesn't want to be in a resourceful state, who doesn't want to be in a good state of frame of mind, right? ऐसा तो कोई नहीं है. Everyone wants to be happy, successful, oriented, connected, invigorated, joyful. So how are these states produced? We'll just learn about that. NLP has gives us a deep understanding of how our mental states are produced. So for example, आपने नई गाड़ी खरीदी, आप चल रहे हो, you are going back from Bombay High Court, and there is a motorcyclist who comes next to you, right, on the signal, and he just taps your window, अपने हैंडल से मार दिया उसने और निकल गए. Now the motorcycle was not aiming to break your side view mirror, okay? The motorcycle was just trying to navigate, वो थोड़ा balance बिगड़ गया, लग गया. And you were also having a new vehicle, you are very proud of it, that it is scratchless, it is beautiful, it is spick and span. But now you start giving meaning to that particular event. The event per se did not have any meaning, right? It was a neutral event. So your senses received it, and thereafter you either delete it, you distort it, or you generalize it, right? So when the biker has hit you, what will the four-wheeler guy say? He will say, ये two-wheeler वालों को तो यानी अकल ही नहीं है, इनको बैन कर देना चाहिए, इनको तो समझ ही नहीं है, right? What will the two-wheeler guy say? ये four-wheeler वाले सोचते हैं कि पूरा रोड इन्होंने ही खरीद लिया ना, and what's the big deal? I just touched this side view mirror, no big deal. इतना अगर शौक है तो फिर घर में ही रखना चाहिए था गैराज के अंदर, right? And an onlooker on the sides, probably a पान पट्टी वाला, he will generalize कि यार गवर्नमेंट ने ना रोड इतना छोटा बनाया है तभी ये प्रॉब्लम हुआ है. So the event did not have any meaning, right? We gave it meaning as per our own subjective experience, as per our own understanding, as per our own environment, as per our own beliefs, right? So this gives rise to our state. Now this is E2. ये जो smiley दिख रहा है, this is E2. So E1 was the event which did not have any meaning, and E2 is the result that we gave to it, right? So E2 is internal representation of an external event. Event per se did not have any meaning, right? But we gave it a meaning as per our own perception, as per our own understanding. And this gives rise to state. If we give it a proper state, if we have a proper understanding about it, we will be able to be in a happy state, in a resourceful state, in a productive state, right? If we take it in a negative manner, it might result in action. Now that action can be verbal or non-verbal. So in this case, या तो गाली दे सकते हैं verbal, या तो हाथापाई कर सकते हैं non-verbal, right? Which decides the quality of the action, decides the result, which finally directs our quality of our life, right? So it can be desirable or undesirable. Understood how our states are generated? So an event by itself did not have any meaning, but we gave it a meaning as per our experience, which gives rise to our state. If we are able to see it holistically, step back and observe it neutrally, we'll be able to harness, we'll be able to identify, interpret in a much better way, right? And that will help us to harness the positive states, to harness the productive states, rather than be in a victimhood or a problem state. लेकिन अब प्रॉब्लम तो है, गाड़ी तो ठुकी है ना, गाड़ी तो लग गई, सो क्या करे कोई, इतनी प्यार से इतने मेहनत से पैसे जमा किए थे एंड लोन शोन लेके गाड़ी ली थी, अब क्या करें, ठुक गई तो. सो रादर देन बीइंग इन अ प्रॉब्लम फ्रेम, rather than cursing the individual and fretting over it, wasting your time and energy, you will be in a solution frame. कि प्रॉब्लम हो गया है, अब क्या करें, बम्पर टू बम्पर लिया है ना, किस दिन काम आएगा. सो यू कैन एटलीस्ट बी इन अ सोल्यूशन फ्रेम rather than lingering around in a problem frame, right? So this is how your states can improve your output. This is how your positive productive states can propel you towards solution rather than being in a problem, right? Right. So who was Sachin Tendulkar's coach? Achrekar, we all know. But did he have better records than Sachin Tendulkar? Greater records than Sachin? No. But he was still his coach. Who was Virat Kohli's coach? Or who was Ronaldo's coach? Did he have better records than Ronaldo? Probably not, right? But you require these coaches, these guide people like me and people like your gurus and your mentors, because they help you be in the right state. We all got skill. Everyone is skilled, right? किसी का skill थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा है, किसी का थोड़ा सा कम है, ना? So we are all having our own skills. If we are in the right state, we are in the right form, right? Generally when we say कि form अच्छा चल रहा है, it is the right state of mind and the right skill. That combination produces us to have resourceful states, causes us to have resourceful states, and that results in high performance, right? That is why you require a coach or a mentor or a guide or a person who can direct you, channelize your energy, keep you in the right frame of mind, away from being trolled, being hassled by the trolls, right? Troll तो आप रोक नहीं सकते, लेकिन वो troll को कैसे लेना है, that तो आप control कर सकते हो. What are your controllables? That you can understand, right? So yes, we are on time now. Another 15 minutes. So we are on time. Yeah. After this, we are going to practice a technique also. Okay. So the last part of it, before we move on to the technique proper, we will be practicing a technique. So addictions, right? Now addictions are multifold. Mobile addiction, one of those most common addictions that I am dealing with, especially with Gen Alpha and Gen Z, right? कि शुरू किया कहाँ से पता नहीं, इंस्टाग्राम पे एक रील पे पहुँचे थे कुछ देखने के लिए एंड रात कैसे निकल गई पता ही नहीं चला, राइट? ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम when it keeps happening continuously, your battery keeps draining rapidly and your efficiency also tapers down. And one of those most common addictions that I am trying to fight is nicotine addiction, wherein I am trying to sensitize people, because cigarettes, e-cigarettes, vapes, especially with our corporate culture, with tier 2 city migrants coming in, children being exposed for the first time, they take it as a status symbol, they take it as a cool thing to do, which is going to damage an entire generation, right? And towards this, I will not go into the statistics because I want to focus on assimilating you. Towards this, I have created a few courses, which is on Udemy. It has got approximately 1600 plus subscriptions and it is going great guns. I am also conducting a webinar on Sunday, leading on to a course helping people with nicotine de-addiction. So if somebody is vulnerable enough, you can definitely refer. Right. So now before ending, before going on to the final phase, I'll just take you through thumb technique. So there is something known as thumb technique. Okay. So how to handle your internal negative voice? We understood the power of what these internal negative voice does to ourselves. So we'll practice an NLP technique known as thumb technique. So how do you do that? I'll just guide you. Initially I'll explain. Please have your attention over here. So you sit with the spine erect and you get your breath in order, right? Thereafter, we all have at least one negative voice which bothers us, which torments us, yeah, which pulls us down. So we'll recall that voice. I'll ask you to recall that particular voice, which is right now causing some concern. Then you hear that voice coming from your right shoulder in the form of a loudspeaker, right? Then I'll ask you to raise your right hand. You raise your right hand with the thumb in front and you visualize the voice coming from your right elbow, right? Thereafter, you see that voice blaring out at you from your right thumb in the form of one of your worst hated characters, cartoon characters like Vijay Raj. मेरे को उसका कार्टून कभी पसंद नहीं आया, right? So whenever I have to thrash somebody, I imagine it as Vijay Raj in front of me. So you visualize something, you visualize this negative voice coming from your right thumb, and thereafter I will guide you and we break it into monosyllables. So you cannot do it, you cannot do it, right? You break it into smaller parts and you visualize that this negative voice has been broken and it has been sucked away by a vacuum cleaner. So the negative voice is ejected out of your system, right? Now you create a positive voice, a positive inner voice, which is to replace that negative voice in the form of your guide, mentor, coach, friend, somebody whom you have total faith on, whom you rely on. Okay? And you hear that negative, positive voice coming from your left thumb, further moving to your left elbow, further moving to your left shoulder, and thereafter running in your brain. Okay? With me so far? I'll guide you. Okay. So everyone sit with your spine erect. Everyone please sit with your spine erect. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath through your nose. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Now slowly recall a negative voice, a disempowering voice which is troubling you, which is causing you trouble, which is causing you pain, which is telling you that you are not good enough, you are not capable enough. Visualize this negative voice. Now visualize this negative voice moving from your head onto your right shoulder. Visualize this negative voice coming from your right shoulder. Imagine कीजिए कि वहाँ पे स्पीकर रखा हुआ है, उस स्पीकर से ये राइट नेगेटिव वॉइस आ रहा है. Now slowly raise your right hand. Visualize this negative voice moving to your right elbow. Visualize this negative voice moving towards your right elbow. This negative voice is telling you that you are not capable enough, you are not good enough. Now let this voice further travel to your right thumb. Keep your eyes closed. Eyes closed. अपने ध्यान को मेरे आवाज़ के साथ जोड़ दें. अगर आपका ध्यान लेफ्ट राइट जा रहा है तो visualize this voice coming from your right thumb. Now visualize this voice being broken into small parts, into monosyllables. Imagine करें कि ये voice धीरे धीरे टूटता जा रहा है. It is losing its power. Now visualize कि आपके सामने एक वैक्यूम क्लीनर रखा हुआ है एंड ऑल दिस मोनोसिलेबल्स आर बीइंग सक्ड आउट. ये नेगेटिव वॉइस इज आउट ऑफ योर सिस्टम. नेगेटिव वॉइस पूरा निकल गया है. लोअर योर राइट हैंड. अपने आवाज़ को मेरे साथ जोड़े, अपने ध्यान को मेरे आवाज़ के साथ जोड़े. नाउ लिफ्ट योर लेफ्ट हैंड and visualize a positive voice, an empowering voice. आपके mentor, guru, दोस्त, trustworthy friend. Visualize this empowering voice coming from your left thumb, moving towards your left elbow. It is telling you कि आप कर सकते हैं. You are positive, you are powerful. Visualize this voice moving further to your left shoulder, moving further to your left shoulder. अब धीरे से visualize this voice moving into your brain and running throughout your system. Left hand नीचे कर लें. Visualize this voice running throughout your system, telling you positive things, telling you how good you are, empowering you, creating a difference, making you strong, making you powerful. Now visualize yourself sitting 1 year down the line. आज की तरफ आप देख रहे हो and you are seeing कि ये 1 साल में क्या फ़ायदा हुआ है. What is the transformation which has been caused by this empowering voice? What is the change which has been caused? You are happy with yourself, you are feeling joyful, you are feeling positive. Now slowly rub your hands, keep it on your eyes, slowly open your eyes. Right. So, we just ejected a negative voice and we tried to install something empowering, right? So, we will do a test, okay? So, everyone sit with your spine erect, close your eyes. Just try to hear inside. What can you hear about these voices? Can you hear the positive voice loud and clear? Slowly open your eyes. Slowly open your eyes. Okay. So, क्या सुनाई दे रहा था? नेगेटिव वॉइस सुनाई दे रहा था या पॉजिटिव वॉइस भी आ रहा था? है ना? कुछ लोगों का नेगेटिव वॉइस आ रहा होगा, कुछ लोगों को पॉजिटिव पॉजिटिव सुनाई दे रहा होगा. सबकी रोटी पहले बारी में गोल नहीं बनती है ना? रोटी जब बनाने लगते हैं तो इंडिया का मैप बनता है, धीरे धीरे वो रोटी बननी शुरू होती है. सो एज यू प्रैक्टिस दिस, you will realize that this technique has got a lot of power, lot of potential to take out your inner negative internal voices. जो आपके limiting beliefs हैं, आपके limiting voices हैं, आपके limiting thoughts हैं, उसको निकाल के system से बाहर करके to empower yourself, you have lot of scope, right? So thumb technique is just one of those techniques. बहुत सारे ऐसे techniques हैं NLP में which help you harness your potential, which helps you maintain a good physical, mental health and equilibrium, right? I completed my lecture. If there are any questions, I will be more than happy to take it on. Sir.
Technique that you will be telling us about detoxification or nicotine addicts and whatever, that technique should apply for any kind of habits, isn't it? Or will there be different techniques for different addictions? Maybe WhatsApp addiction, one kind of addiction. Will not the same technique apply there as well? It's a general question, I know, but yeah.
While the modalities are same of addiction, but the mechanics are different. So, आप nicotine addiction में you require certain additional techniques to work on you, because nicotine addiction is legal. You can go downstairs and have a smoke. Whereas when you have alcohol, you cannot do it in the middle of a road or in the middle of a working day, right? You require a separate circumstance, you require a separate modality. Now that is one part. The second part is about the effect. So nicotine, it stimulates you, alcohol sedates you. So the same technique may not work. So you require an understanding. So in my program, we work at the cognitive level first, we understand what is addiction all about. What is this addiction? How does it stimulate you? How does it give you a perceived sense of completion? Thereafter, at the subconscious level are NLP techniques, and then is the physical level. So every addiction has got a different modality. So for example, somebody who has meth as a drug, so he is always in an euphoric state. It is a high speed stimulant, right? Whereas somebody who has cannabis, ganja, he is in a hallucinatory state. He is in a different world. So while the effect is dopamine high, the way the dopamine high is achieved is different. So the modality also to address it is different. So there are subtle differences, and those differences are what it is like 6 balls of an over. Everything has a variation. So these variations work. Sir, any other questions, sir? Any other question, ladies and gentlemen?
Sir, I would like to ask about, you talked about having mental thought, negative mental thoughts and how to control them. That was the basic premise of this entire session. Okay. So, I'm a law student. So, in my previous internship that I did, there was a particular day where, in general, my seniors have praised me quite a lot. But that particular day, the junior under my senior, he had a certain doubt regarding the work that I have done that particular day. Right. And that made me come to a state which made me believe that I'm not good enough. But before he made those certain remarks, I was very confident with my work, which I did, because I have given a certain amount of dedication, 2 days of work. So I was very confident with that. But before showing it to my sir, I went to the junior and asked for his reference. And that day I started doubting in my capabilities quite a lot, and I felt hesitant to show it to sir. But still I did it, though I knew that probably sir will also agree with the junior, what he said. But surprisingly, sir didn't do that. Sir said that the work is good and it should be useful. Right. So when these kinds of self-doubt comes, how do we go about it? Because if I didn't gather up the courage to go up to sir, then I would have never known that I was right in the first place. Right. Maybe the junior's interpretation of my work wasn't as per what I thought. So in these scenarios, self-doubt comes and it doesn't go away easily. So what to do in these scenarios?
So when I spoke to you about states, right? States is all about this. Because what your junior deciphered was his own understanding, his own knowledge, his own script, perception, his own experience, right? That was his interpretation. What your senior decided or reacted or understood, made out of the event, was based on his experience, probably which was more, which would have been more aligned, right? So while you have self-doubts, these self-doubts give rise to your doubtful state, wherein you are in a turmoil, right? What are the controllables? Can you control the way your junior thinks?
No.
Can you control the way your senior thinks? What can you control?
How I perceive.
Correct. So you can give it your best shot. You can put your best foot forward. So NLP helps you train yourself, control yourself, put in your best foot forward, right? Whether somebody likes it, somebody doesn't like it, it is a matter of contemplation, right? So if it works well, somebody might like it, somebody might give you a pat on your back, but somebody might also abuse you or somebody might also curse you. So you cannot let that affect you from taking action. What can you do? You can take action, right? So you have to focus on what is controllable in your own self, and that is what NLP precisely helps you to know.
But my precise question is, how do we navigate the overthinking part? Because we tend to overthink a lot, even though we know that we shouldn't overthink, we should probably seek for an answer, but we instinctively tend to overthink, and that makes us afraid of approaching for the opportunity that we are seeking for. So how do we navigate that overthinking part and not focus on that.
Correct.
Is there
So
any
that is
tip
what-
regarding that?
That is what NLP is all about. It helps you circumvent your negative thoughts, your overthinking part, to get yourself in control and harness your potential. So it cannot be just as a capsule कि मैं यहाँ खिला के गोली पिला दूँ and you become a non-overthinker. It requires a deeper understanding and a deeper practice, because the more you practice, the more you will be able to harness your energies, right? So we can connect, and I'll be able to guide you as to what practices can you undertake, right? What techniques can you employ on a regular basis, which empowers you from within, which helps you prevent your overthinking, which helps you be in that procrastination mode or contemplation mode, wherein you are in that same cycle with a doubt lingering around you, right? Have I answered your question
Yes,
so far?
Thank you so much.
First part. Second phase, we can take it on forward. Right. Any other question, ladies and gentlemen? Either I have been able to explain very, very well, या फिर किसी को कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ा, किसी को कोई समझ में नहीं आया. There are only two options. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sparing your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Colonel Iyer. There are a couple of takeaways that I have. The minute that Colonel Iyer started talking about sitting up straight, there was a complete shift in the audience where everyone's sitting like this on a lazy Friday afternoon. All of us started sitting a little bit more upright. And another great takeaway was the attitude of gratitude. I have two little boys and I'm bringing them up with that because magic does happen, and I'm so glad you brought it up for everyone at the bar. One more thing is that if all of you, I encourage you to download the BBA app. The quizzes that Colonel Iyer was talking about, I will upload them on the app under the heading Upcoming Events. That will be made live for the next 3 days. On Monday or on Tuesday, it will be deleted. So all of you can access the quizzes where we get to know our PIPs, and we look forward to it. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thakkar, Colonel Iyer, thank you so much for this evening. It was extremely enlightening. Please join us for a cup of tea and some snacks. Thank you so much. See you all soon.